Welcome back.
Yes,
Yahoo's senior NBA writer, Vincent Goodwill, is here.
What up, Vinny?
What up?
How are you, brother?
All good?
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Good.
Suit, Vinny.
Thank you.
We will get to the Philadelphia 76ers in just a second, but first, couple of big plays from last night. Hornets and Rockets. Chris Paul, watch it on the pick and roll. Drops the no-look to Clint Capella for the easy two.
All right, this is a great pass by Chris Paul. It looks better on that right there, but don't look now. Chris Paul playing as well as he played tail end of last year, going into the playoffs. When at the beginning of this year, real questions about him. Chris Paul playing really good basketball since he's been back from injury.
Yeah,
that pick and roll in the NBA is so nasty.
What's the key word in that? Injury.
Oh,
okay.
Come on.
Okay.
I was going to say.
All right, he's coming in spicy.
Next up, Raptors Cavs. Kevin Love hitting Jetty Osman in stride with the pinpoint full court pass.
Now, who's had a bigger fall? Because that used to be LeBron James. Now Kevin Love is on the highlights to Jetty Osman.
All right, first of all, we're not going to disrespect Jetty Osman on this show. We love Jetty Osman on the show. However, that is a great point.
In your time, but in our time.
He is the best at that pass since
Wes Unseld.
No question about it.
Teammate of his dad.
Yep.
Next up, Thunder Jazz. Donovan Mitchell puts Nerlens Noel on skates.
See, don't defend too hard. That's what that is.
Okay, I like that. That prevents that.
Nerlens should not be out there with the little people. He's a rim protector.
Know your limitations.
Donovan's going to do that to you.
I'm just glad it happened to him compared to LeBron. LeBron would be out. His career would be over with.
LeBron ain't trying to defend nobody.
Oh, that.
You know,
bad.
you know what?
Sorry, Nick.
I don't like how any of this has gone. It's about to get worse.
Guys, let's talk Sixers. The team currently tied with the Pacers for third place in the East with Joel Embiid back. This is a young, strong, seemingly cohesive team, one that plans to contend for titles for years to come. Ben Simmons said he and Embiid don't plan on going anywhere, adding, you see a lot of guys from the past request trades and things like that when you could have seen something special happen. And I think Joel and I remind ourselves that a lot. We want to stay and win championships for the city. Vince, what are your thoughts on this team, where they can go?
My thoughts are, I would like to date Kelly Rowland one day. You know what? That sounds nice.
Oh. Because I thought we were going in a very different direction.
I follow you. Agreed, by the way.
It sounds really nice for Ben Simmons to say that. I don't think with the deficiencies in his game that the 76ers can be a realistic championship contender. You can't shoot a jump shot. You won't shoot a jump shot outside of the paint. Do you know how easy that is to scheme when you have the ball in your hands on every single possession and you insist on being the second option or option 1A when you have Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, two 20-point scorers who can demand the basketball, but they don't because of the hierarchy the way that it is. So in years, in time, maybe if his game develops, I think I can see that happening. But at this stage right now, I still think they're like in an infancy stage. I know, Nick, you believe that they're going to make the finals this year.
Well, they were my preseason pick to make the finals.
And then they get Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris.
So listen, before we get to the Sixers' ability to win with this team, let me say something about what Ben Simmons said and why, if the Sixers brass believes him, this is an enormous sigh of relief moment. There have been two quiet narratives, I'm sure you have heard them, Vinny, behind the scenes with Ben Simmons. One is there's a Shaq it's clearly Joel, and that Ben might not want to be there long term. The other scuttlebutt around the league, which is really interesting, is that next summer Ben Simmons could be the first player ever to turn down the max restricted free agent tender. That he could play for the qualifying offer of $10 million, hit unrestricted free agency in 2 years, and kind of blow up the idea of what Philly's building. You've heard that as well,
yes.
Right? And so Ben Simmons coming out and saying, I think we can build something, win championships. That doesn't sound like a guy that's a year away from turning down a max restricted free agent offer, which no one has ever done in the history of basketball. That's the first point. Second point on the basketball. He has an obvious deficiency. He did not get better at it over the summer the way I thought he would. It is clearly a detriment to their offense when it gets into the half court. But despite that deficiency, is he not one of the 10 best point guards in basketball? Have we gone so far because he can't shoot, we disregard the passing, the rebounding, the 17 points a game, the all-NBA caliber defense?
No, I'll put him in the top 10.
Okay, so if we acknowledge that Philly's got a top 10 point guard, even if that's all he is, 10th best point guard, maybe the best center in the league, a great wingman in Jimmy Butler, I think an underrated player in Tobias Harris, and a dead-eye shooter in J.J. Redick, their issue is not any of those people. Their issue is, do they have enough depth? And in close games, what type of coach is Brett Brown? At least in my eyes. Like, we pile on Ben Simmons because it's kind of comical that he won't shoot an 8-footer, and you've been talking about this for 2 years, and I get it. I thought he'd get better at it. But he's not a negative to them. He's an asset for them. He's a positive for them.
Yeah, he is, but just not on the offensive end. And when you get into playoff series and you get in where you're in that 24-shot clock and you run so many half-court sets, Nick, you're either not watching what they're doing to him defensively because he clogs up the lane for everyone.
If he doesn't have the ball, he's useless.
I mean, like on the offense. Now, he does have all those other things. Yeah, he is a top 10 point guard. But when you look at the game and how hard he makes our offense to run. Now, I like the fact that he came out and said, yeah, we're trying to be here together. Philly is a special place. They got a great arena. Only one in the NBA averaging more than 20,000. They're sold out every night. These are the types of things that you want young players to be saying. And now you have to go out and grow your game. I'm not trying to hold Philadelphia back. Ben Simmons and his lack of jump shot. Only 7% of his shots are outside the painted area. Like, so I'm getting ready to rely on that for the next 5 years where we are getting more distance. The rules are more space. Like, the game is led to having more shooters. He is a special talent, but his deficiencies, they hurt the offense, especially when you get in the playoff time where they slow the ball down and your offensive set becomes more important, where they take most of the transition out of your offensive game.
Well, not just that. I mean, if you look at he and Giannis, there isn't much difference in their skill sets offensively, but Giannis is so much more aggressive. He puts so much pressure on the defense that Ben Simmons doesn't do in the half court. Like, Giannis can't shoot, and he won't shoot necessarily outside of 15, 18 feet. But his mindset is such that he's going to take whatever space you give him.
And Giannis is a more polished, he's a better player in everything but passing, at least in my eyes. Like, I understand what you're saying, which is we don't kill Giannis because he can't shoot either.
Right.
But it's because Giannis is doing every other aspect of offense.
Well, Giannis also leads the NBA in points scored in the paint. He also leads the NBA in dunks. If that was Ben Simmons' resume, I would be like, hey, I wouldn't be so much worried about it. But he doesn't have a post game. When he goes up in the air, he doesn't know which hand he's getting ready to shoot with.
All that's true. Like, I think everyone can acknowledge this enormous deficiency in his game, which is why he hasn't taken the leap I thought he would take this year. It's why I thought he would get better, not become a good shooter, but become a willing shooter, a competent shooter at 12 to 15 feet over the summer. I don't know what he did over the summer. I think that's a fair knock on him. But that is not his entire game. We've spent a lot of this season, speaking of LeBron, we spent a lot of this season saying, all right, LeBron's offensive numbers are this, but that doesn't discount the fact that he's been a bad defender. That's got to go both ways. Ben Simmons is an extraordinary defender.
We talk about him enough on the show. We're not talking about his shooting. All right, when we talk about it, we talk about, man, he's a mismatch. He's a nightmare in transition. Man, yeah, he's a great defender. We talk about that. We don't talk about his shooting every time on the show. So if he's an NBA All-Star player, but he should be improving, Nick. He's been out of college how many years?
3 years.
Oh,
absolutely.
But here's the thing. He's an extraordinary talent.
Yes.
Like, if you talk about some of a generational type of talent that's come out of the draft in the past 10 years, he's right at the top of that list. I think, like you said, Nick, sometimes he gets a bad rap because
talent and basketball players are different things. Now, we just can't forget that he can't shoot. That's not our problem. All right, our job is to get a fair depiction of where he might be, where he's going to go. And when you look at it, because this is what I'm trying to tell you, I think you underestimate it. There's not a lot of players in NBA history who could not shoot that were great talents, and then they became shooters. I've been through NBA history. I've been trying to pick names. Man, who's he like?
No, as far as whether or not, to me, these are separate conversations. Whether or not he can fulfill the potential that I and others saw of him coming out of LSU.
That's what athletics is about. It's about tapping into all your potential. That's what it's about.
in one area, yes. That is a separate discussion then. Can the Sixers this year make the finals? Whether or not Ben Simmons is going to reach his full potential, that is in this bucket. Can the Sixers this year, given his deficiencies, make the finals?
No, because he can't shoot. And the way they defend him, the way they clog up the lane. Like, I have to depend on Joel Embiid. They only have a few sets that they can run with them, Nick. They had to take him off the point, running the offense from the middle of the court because people were sagging in the lane. So Brett Brown said, you know what we're going to do? Man, we're going to try to bring it up on the left-hand side. So the number one play that they do is a dribble handoff because it's on the left and because they're sagging into the lane. So these are real things. This is what NBA players, it's not a matter of me trying to hate on Ben Simmons. This is Ben's responsibility. It's my responsibility to watch the games. It's his responsibility to grow his game. Until he grows his game, it's going to hurt Philadelphia, especially this year, which we're talking about now.
Yeah, they can't. I don't think they can make the finals this year.
So, okay. I mean, I don't think they're the favorite. I think they absolutely can beat Toronto in the second round series if they stay at the 3 line, and we'll see. But because of the position he plays, we act as if there aren't other teams that have non-shooters on the court. The Rockets do. His name's Clint Capella. He's their center.
Yeah, but he doesn't touch the ball on every possession.
He doesn't. I understand. He doesn't bring the ball up the court. I get it. Somehow, despite all of this, the Sixers this year are going to win 50-plus games. They have been a dominant team at home. I understand the argument that if Simmons had taken 2 steps forward in his development, then they probably are the favorites in the Eastern Conference, given who they added. Now they're not. But to act like he's a I just don't think he's a disqualifying factor. It's not because I'm not watching the games, and you know that. Like, I'm watching the games, and I think they are a good enough team defensively, and Embiid is dominant enough they can overcome
they stay down there. They stay down there the whole time. Yeah.
They stay down there.
They stay on the defense. Yeah, he's a beast.
We got to take a break. Vince, we'll see you later in the show. Coming up, back to some football. Did the Jaguars overpay for quarterback Nick Foles? That's next on
He claimed that me, dude can't shoot.
No.
I told Nick he don't have a routine.
Can't shoot, won't shoot.
Man, I was at a couple home games. It was like, I'm at the game. I'm calling Nick. Hey, Nick, he's out here just shooting shots. He don't even have no rhyme or reason. He